Hi everyone, third time's the charm. I'm gonna try to do a video here of how we trim some of these truffles. We've had a lot of requests for how to do this, and so I've tried doing it a couple times previously, and I apologize if there's barking and stuff like that, but we're just gonna work through it. So, first things first, you need truffles to trim. So, here we have some black truffles that we just found today. I already cleaned them. So we cleaned them under running water. My sink is right there, with a handy dandy toothbrush. And really what we did is just had them under running water. We'll do a video on this too if we haven't. And tried to get all the little dirt out of all the little nooks and crannies. Okay. So the next thing is you really need to trim your truffles. And so when we say trimming your truffles, what that really means is cutting off anything that's gross, or unappetizing, or may have a rot, which may cause the truffles to rot faster in of themselves. So usually I trim the truffles when they're wet, just after cleaning. It gives a chance for them to air dry a little bit while I'm going through this process. Again, we found these with some friends today. So one of the first things you can always do is you smell them to see how they smell. If it smells gross, you can cut it off. I don't know if we have any in this batch that are going to fit that category, but basically if like part of it smells bad, the other part still may be usable in terms of like home infusing and things like that. For sale, generally, that's a whole other kind of like grading system, and we can do a video on that, but this is kind of just for home cleaning, okay? So this truffle, if I can get this to focus, the lighting in here is not the best. Can I get it to do that? Maybe you can see a little bit better right here. It's got a lot of pits and pot marks and stuff in it, and that can be okay, but you want to check for pressure, and this feels pretty hard, which is good. If it gives way under your thumb, that means there's likely rot in there, and that's caused from insect damage. These holes look like they were insect damage, but the truffle actually healed itself, and this is the skin that it's healed over. So we're smelling it. It smells pretty good. I may clean up a couple of these little pot marks just to check and see if there's rot underneath. Let me get focus again. Focus. There we go. See how it's bubbly? That's what you want. So that's good. So that's totally fine. Let me feel around. He feels pretty good. Let me find one that's less good to show you guys. I saw a worm come. Okay. So smell this guy. He smells okay. She smells okay. It's in front of the camera. It's tricky to do this. So right in there, right where my knife point is, it's hard to get it to focus, but there's a little tiny worm. So what I'm going to do in this instance is you try to take off as little material as possible. But I'm going to get in here and I'm going to kind of just chunk off a bit of it. And then I take a look at it again. Let me see if I can get better lighting. And it looks okay. I may trim it up a little bit more, just to make it a little bit cleaner, but it looks okay otherwise. Okay, so I changed the angle of the camera, hoping that we have a little bit better light this way. Same truffle, I'm gonna trim him up a little bit more, just cut off some, and what I'm really trying to do is create either a flat, planed surface to really see what the interior looks like and make sure there's no rot, and it looks pretty good, and that's Ryu having an opinion about this. So that one, you always smell it. It smells pretty good. So we'll keep that guy. That one's pretty good. Chunks like this, totally okay. This is not something you would ever sell, but this is something that you can totally infuse with. And for infusing, it really just has to smell good. So if it smells okay, this one's a little funky, but all right. So I may set him aside, but use it for something or freeze it for training, but it's actually pretty good. So there's that. Again, ones like this, if you can kind of see right there, if it focuses, looks like it may have some damage, but it may be okay. So what I'm going to just do is trim it up a little bit, take a peek underneath. It's got a little more damage than I want in there, so I'm going to just kind of keep going. And that's a little better. Cut off a little more. And you'll find sometimes with rot like that it gets into the core, and so you'll kind of have to dig in and core it out. Oftentimes you're not left with much then. And then the question we often get is, what about all these little pieces? What do you do with them? And so these little pieces that we've been cutting off, if it has rot in it, we don't want to use that for training, and we certainly don't want to eat it. So sometimes we'll throw it back out in the woods next time we go, but it's not something that we're going to consume or train our dogs to find. So that guy's actually okay. It does have some damage still in the middle, and I might wait on that one. Let's see if we can find another interesting one. Here we go. So, nommed on by critters, or possibly Ruby, totally possible. That is what we call an autograph right there. You got a little claw mark going through it. Happens. Smells lovely though. It's got some debris still on the outside, sticks and stuff stuck to it, so you want to get all that stuff off. And then again on this outer edge, if I can get it to focus, see these little dark bits? Some of that is okay and some of that is a rot. This dark thing on the bottom corner, that is a rot, so I'm just going to cut that guy off. Looks okay then. I'm going to maybe even it out a little bit. What I wanted to show you on this one was this piece up here. See that kind of orangish stuff? That could be a rot. And so you press it. Does it give? This one's actually pretty firm. I'm still curious and I want to make sure there's nothing like nasty underneath it. So I'm going to cut. And it looks pretty good underneath. Again, this is not ideal. Having any kind of blemish in the interior is really not ideal, but kind of, again, for home personal use, this is fine. You don't need to cut away this. Ooh, that smells lovely. You don't need to cut away the skin of the truffle. That's where a lot of yummy aroma is, so don't get rid of it. Normally I'll separate these out then too, of like good ones, bad ones. Smell test. Again, looks kind of gnarly on the outside. So I'm just gonna give it a little trim. Again, massive blemish. That's not a rot, that's just damage. So I'm gonna keep it for now because again, we're not trying to sell these. This is just home personal use, so stuff like that doesn't matter. If you're trying to sell it, it does. That one smells funky. Not in a bad way, but kind of a little extra bit of earth. So I'm gonna just poke around it, take a really close look, maybe take a little nick off the top. That's pretty good. Okay. So, I don't have any really big, beautiful whole ones, but if I did, let's pretend this is a whole one. So if this is a whole truffle, it's actually been nibbled by somebody, but had this been a whole truffle, really beautiful on the outside, oftentimes what we'll do is we'll find a spot where we're not going to take much material off, so just a little tiny bit, and we'll nick it. So what our goal is we want to see what the interior looks like. Part of that is to judge how ripe it is. And part of it is to see, like, is there something in there that we need to be aware of that we may have missed, such as a rot of some kind or something like that. So it smells good. So that's why we do that. These are actually, you know, for personal use, all in pretty darn good shape. Here's one. This guy has lots of little friends. It's not quite what we call a worm hotel, but you can see them better there. So can you see that? Those gross little worms. So I'm grossed out by those. So I'm going to just cut into it. And you see still more tunnels. So I'm going to keep cutting until I get rid of all of that stuff. So let's, ew. This part always grosses me out. But you sometimes have to take away quite a bit of material in order to get all of that out. You don't, again, for personal use, you don't necessarily have to, but it grosses me out. So I always get rid of all these guys. And again, so on the outside, see if I can get the camera to focus. See all those little, how am I doing this? Around the little tunnels, kind of around the outside. I'm going to get rid of all those by just kind of trimming like that. And you'll feel it give, yep, see, and there's a worm, hiding. And he wasn't near the surface, so I wouldn't have found him unless I cut this. Ew, and there's another one. Ew, there's a bunch. So what I was saying is you'll feel it, see, even more. You feel resistance, and that's not the little worm bodies. That's the tunnels that they've created. There is a great example, if I can get it to focus. Where's the camera? Can you see it? See that little white thing inside there? He's created a little tunnel, snacking on some truffles. Sorry, buddy. He's going to go away, as are more of his friends. and it keeps going. I don't want to put this in with my other truffles because I don't want to contaminate anything and have, you know, gross worms going into my good truffles. So that big truffle, at some point, I just get rid of the whole thing. Yep, and it's still going. So at this point, this is such a small chunk that's left, I'm going to just put it basically in our discard pile. So if it smelled really good, I could freeze it maybe and use it for training. I don't usually like to do that if they really have a lot of worms in them. So I'm just going to cut it and set it aside. So that truffle is basically toast. And the worms can have it and have fun with it. Here's another one that just is really waterlogged. See how you don't see any definition in the interior? I'll cut it to see if there's anything better. There's not. It's actually worse. So stuff like this, when you see it, I probably am just going to get rid of this whole thing. But to show you guys, oh, it's really tough to see in this light. This is a really funky color on the bottom. Anytime you see a really weird color like a yellow, like a straight up yellowish orange, that's never good. So you're going to get rid of it. Gonna get rid of it some more. I'm probably just going to toss this whole one, but just so that you guys can see it. And that's kind of a quick tutorial on trimming, but you can see all the, see all the pieces. Let me flip the camera around. How do I do that? Nope. You can see all the pieces just from that one truffle, right? There's all the little worms and stuff. Ew. So you can see all the pieces from all of that. So that's a quick tutorial on trimming. I'll do a better one, a little more structured, but to start, that can kind of get you guys started.